Hello guys! Tea with me is here today to present you the listening session for the IELTS exam. We are almost there. We are finishing all the sessions of the exam. So let's roll! Hello guys! Tea with me today starts presenting the IELTS listening session. We're going to work with all the kinds of questions and strategies so you can score the band score that you need, so you can get the results expected. But before we get to that, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends that are preparing for the IELTS, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the Wednesdays videos that are here at 7 a.m. sharp. So let's start understanding first what to expect from your IELTS session. The IELTS lasts a total of 40 minutes and the recording itself lasts 30 minutes. So this time difference happens when you are working with the paper-based exam because you needed to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. So they give you proper time to do that. So don't worry about it. Focus on working with the questions. What to expect? The exam, the listening exam, is divided into 4 parts. So you have 2 social contexts happening and 2 academic contexts, okay? So the first one, it's a conversation between 2 people. Day-by-day conversation, the kinds of conversations that would have with friends, with the teacher in a social context. The second one, it's a speech or a talk also in a social context. Number 3 is a group conversation up to 4 people are talking here, and it's on an education or training context. And number 4 is considered the most difficult because it is a lecture on an academic subject. So the main difference, again, between the paper-based exam and the computer-based exam is that on the paper-based, you have 10 minutes to transfer your exam to the answer sheet, okay? So after you know all that, let's understand a little bit about how IELTS score is settled. You get points for each correct answer that you have. So keep in mind that if you need a band score 7, you are going to need something between 30-31 correct answers out of your 40 total questions, okay? So it's important to say that if you don't know an answer, yes, write something on your answer sheet. You don't lose any points because you only get points for the correct information you get, okay? If you miss the question, by the way, move on to the next question. What happens is sometimes we are so focused on answering one question that we lose it. We miss it for a second. We didn't get the answer while listening to it. And then we miss the whole set of questions from that specific part of the listening. Okay. So if you miss one, that's just fine. Yes, and move on. Okay. And remember, you only listen once, so you don't have a lot of time to waste. So what are the things that you need to know when it comes to IELTS? As I said before, you listen once. And what does that mean? It means that you need to practice taking notes while listening. And that's a skill that a lot of people do not have. They are not used to listening and writing. And that can help you a lot. And that can help you answer all the questions immediately as you listen to them. Okay? One more thing. You can write your answers when we are talking about the paper-based. You can write your answers in capital letters or lowercase, but choose one and stick to it. If you start with capital letters, go with capital letters from beginning to end. If you start with lowercase, remember, names of people and cities, they start with capital letter. And that's very important when you are transferring your answers to the answer sheet, okay? Then, I said before, practicing note-taking is a skill that you have to practice. what do you do? What can you do in order to improve this skill for the day of the exam? You have to keep in mind that an exam like this requires you to listen to a long period of material nonstop. Sometimes on a subject that you are not very familiar with, as it may happen on part number 4. Remember, the part that is considered the most difficult because it is a lecture on an academic topic. You don't need to understand the topic, you need to understand what is said. You don't need to be a biology expert to understand the listening about birds, for example. So, how do you practice that? You need to select a set of materials that allow you to listen to large amount, to a large set of content. Something, I would say 20, 30 minutes of listening would be a good strategy for you. You can listen to interviews because interviews are part of what we call social context, podcasts on topics that you like, and TED Talks, because TED Talks, they bring academic topics to the subject. There are many TED Talks that explore articles and research and what has been done in terms of technology, science, and the world itself. So those are three things that I recommend you guys to work with. And what do? You listen to it and you take notes. And after you're finishing listening to it only once, you get your notes and try to summarize the main idea of what you've heard. By the way, when you are practice note taking, pay attention to spelling. Spelling is extremely important and you don't get points for writing words wrong. So, if you don't practice that on the day of the exam, that you don't have enough time to check, you are going to make a ton of tiny, teeny mistakes that may cost your band score. So, before we get to understanding the questions, which is going to happen on the next videos, I want you guys to practice what is necessary to master the questions. It's about understanding the questions. Yes, of course it is. But if you don't know how to properly answer them, I don't think it's going to give you the result that you are expecting. Then, what else you need to know? When you get your exam in front of you, you read carefully in order to check the number of words you can use in your answer. So this is tricky. I have covered this on the reading session and I'm going to get to this part again. And why is that? It may appear for you like this. You can have no more than 2 words and or a number. And some students get confused with this. What do no more than 2 words and or a number mean? It means that you can answer with 1 word, 2 words, 2 words and a number, or only a number. Nothing more than that fits that particular piece of information they want you to write over there. So understand that very carefully before you start writing down the answers, because you may think that 3 words and the articles do not count. I'm asked that a lot. So teachers, do the articles count? For example, hospital or a hospital? Yes, all the words count. So a hospital, 2 words. Understand what they want from you. We are going to get to these kinds of questions more deeply. But now that you are practicing note taking, before we get to that, try to look at the speed that you write and how many words you are writing and how you can improve that as well. Then, of course, learn about the kinds of question, and that's what I'm going to do with you guys on the next videos for IELTS. Don't try to understand everything. I say that all the time, but it seems that students want to have a perfect level of understanding, thinking that a native speaker would have so. No, they wouldn't. Okay? Don't try to understand every tiny bit. What's going to happen is that you're going to get tired, you're going to get exhausted. There may be new vocabulary, especially on the academic listenings, and you are going to get frustrated because you think you don't understand everything. It's about understanding enough to answer the questions. It's about showing what you can do with that vocabulary. prepare your questions quickly. And why is that? When the listening starts, they're going to tell you something like that. Now you have time to prepare questions 1 to 5. You are always given time to prepare. You have time to check the question before the audio starts. But again, it's not 10 minutes, it's some seconds they are giving you. So learn to prepare for questions quickly. When you get your IELTS samples to practice, learn to read through the questions quickly. Answers can come easily, which means that they can pop up in the sequence and they may seem easy, and that's okay. There may be a gap between answers. When we say that there may be a gap between answers, it's because you are answering the questions, you are answering your exercise, and then what happens is that they're gonna say a good chunk of the listening before they get to the other answer. So if you are answering something that seems to be everything organized and in order, and then out of the blue it's missing only one part, one piece, one word for you, and you may think that you've missed it. Pay attention, because that answer may come later on. So it's about understanding what the questions want from you so that you can get that specific information when it comes in the listening session. Okay, what are some traps that may appear for you guys? Answers that are changed, especially when it comes to the conversations. Imagine that two characters are talking, and then one of them goes like, okay, so we meet at 7 in front of them all? Yeah, sure, of course. But then the conversation keeps going, and one of the characters, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, I can only get there by 7:30. Be careful with that, because you need to understand all sorts of changes that may happen throughout the conversations and throughout the lectures you are listening. Using similar words rather than paraphrasing. IELTS use paraphrasing, and it's one technique that we have to explore and practice a lot. One of my previous videos has a set of paraphrasing materials available on the description of the video, specifically because IELTS uses that. So be careful with words that are very similar. Similar words in the listening and similar words in the exercise, in the question. IELTS uses paraphrasing. So if you go for the similar words as a strategy to answer the questions, you may get that wrong. But technical and academic language, the technical and academic, which would be the third and fourth part of the listening, they not always paraphrase, because we are talking about academic language. So you need to be careful with that on sessions 1 and 2. The plurals. Well, when we have the simple plurals, which are the plurals that end in S, sometimes we have a tendency to forget or to not have practiced getting the plurals in words like school, schools, and then we write the answer in the singular form, and that is considered wrong. So practice listening. Improve your listening before anything else. So before we get to the next videos, before we start understanding deeply the questions, don't forget to improve your listening. Work on that. And what are you going to focus on? You are going to focus on the length. How long have you listening every day? Have you been listening every day? It's important that you focus on listening for at least 30 minutes, which is the length of your exam, okay? Consistency. What does it mean? It means listen every day. Listen to a variety of topics and a variety of accents. Select different sources of material and work with them on a daily basis. Get used to the idea of having English as something that happens naturally and normally every day of your life. So, guys, that's it for today. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our next videos, because our next videos are preparing you for the kinds of questions you are going to face on your IELTS listening session. Our videos appear on Wednesdays at 7 a.m. So if you don't subscribe, you are going to miss the opportunity to study with me. So, T with me presented the listening strategy for you guys today, and I see you next week.